even talk to us on the subject. But today, unlike all other days, we have the opportunity to listen to a Holocaust survivor. What is better than to have a first-hand account of the events that happened in so many people's lives? Movies can only scratch the surface of the emotions from so many unfortunate people. Having someone who has lived through this come to our school today can not only explain the events that occurred, but can also give a sincere account of the feelings in the hearts of millions. Having lived for 5½ years in 14 different concentration camps, he knows the anguish, hate, pain, and hell every man, woman, and child went through. He is one of the few survivors willing to discuss their experiences. After lecturing in high schools, universities, churches, and synagogues, he, along with Dr. Richard Michael, is writing a book which incorporates his memoirs as well as those of others who lived and died during the Holocaust. I have the honor to introduce Mr. Abraham Landau, survivor of the Holocaust.
I am very grateful to the students and to teachers in this high school that are willing to study and learn about the Holocaust crimes. I must tell the truth. I know it is painful and it's bitter, but it is real. Holocaust has critical lessons to teach the men and women of today. Remembering can shatter and heal the soul and can awaken a concern for humanity and for society. I am speaking of real events, of men, women, boys and girls who suffered and dreamed, who laughed and cried, and who were consumed by evil in a world of madness. I know that the task of teaching the Holocaust is not easy, especially for those who were not there. What has been given to you by history and by literature, it's only a part, a very small part of the truth of the most horrifying, cruelest genocide ever took place. I know that the whole tragedy cannot be told in 1 or a half an hour, but teaching of the Holocaust is a double defeat for all the historians and the neo-Nazis who are trying to reverse the whole truth. What happened in the years of 1933 and 1935. They sought to destroy the evidence of their crime, and they tried to corrupt all human values. Teaching about the Holocaust, of the evil of the Nazi crimes, will instruct every student to cherish the values that they are at the core of a just society. I've been in Auschwitz. Auschwitz was a concentration camp of 3 different large camps. And I was witnessing millions of innocent people, Jews and righteous Gentiles alike, perished in the ovens of Auschwitz. I was picked to be in the Sonderkommando in Auschwitz, 3rd camp, and I was working for 6 weeks down there. But I remember Auschwitz. I remember the buildings, the flame, the sound of music playing 24 hours a day. People lined up like sheep waiting for the slaughter, be they Jew or non-Jews, rabbis, priests, nuns, fascists or communists, not to mention the gypsies or retarded people. All of them were waiting in the line we designated for the final solution. I have a mission and a promise I made to tell of the German cruelties and the monstrosities. Many factors are involved. As the remaining survivors grow older, there is a certain urgency to commemorate mine experiences before it's too late. The experiences remain incommunicable. I have tales of unbelievable truth, tales of deception, insult, cruelty, decimation, inhuman atrocities, extermination, and genocide, slave labor and systematic slaughter, unreal nightmares. Adolf Eichmann, the architect of Hitler's Holocaust, was the first man in history to use technology and the most modern scientific methods for mass murder. The mind simply cannot fathom these unhuman cruelties. I was wearing in the concentration camp the zebra suit for 5.5 years and the badges of shame. I was called by the guards by the assessment Muslim. In Germany they call me Muslim. Translated in English, this means a starving Jew. I was yearning for freedom and revenge. I was degraded as a human being, and even today, all this seems so unreal. The Holocaust does not just happen. It is a deliberate, calculated act of mass murder, the guilt for which rests not only with the actual killers, but also with those who stood by and did nothing. Never before in recorded history had one nation sought to destroy another, based solely on the religion. I can personally attest how horrible, how monstrous were these 5.5 years in 14 different concentration camps. Alas, I cannot forgive or forget. I am a survivor of 14 different camps. The number of my left arm reads 141282. For as long I shall live, may I never forget my past. For more than 35 years, I have kept my memories of the Holocaust locked up inside of me. I wished I could purge the agony from my consciousness. Now I know I cannot. Surely I thought people in a polite society would not want to hear of such horrors. Now I know that I owe my story to the world. No longer can I sit by silently as outrageous lies are told, lies that attempt to deny the Holocaust. My suffering and the suffering of millions of others, lies that deny the murder of my entire family of 95 people, lies that feed the flame of bigotry and hatred. After so many years, I feel I must speak and tell of my past. However painful it may be to relive these horror-filled years, people must know in order to protect humanity, and especially the young generations. All of us know of the fate of those millions of people rendered hopeless as the Hitler decimated Europe from 1933 to 1945. I do not have to tell you how Hitler, the butcher, reduced our people to a panic-stricken collection of individuals, each struggling to survive under constant peril. Hitler trusted the apathy of the world. He was confident that all nations would be so indifferent that they would allow him to carry his final solution to the 6 million Jewish people and to millions of many other nationalities. The Holocaust was not simply Hitler's creation. It can be traced to the humanizing racial theories long found among Germans and other peoples. The railroad lines that carried Jews to the death camps also carried German civilians in comfortable passenger trains. As they traveled for business and pleasure, some would pass through the city of Auschwitz. The railroad station was only 2 miles from the death houses. The stench of burning bodies spread throughout this area. Local Germans complained about the stench, not about the slaughter. Yet, when it was over, the same Germans say they did not know. They claimed to remember nothing about it. But I know, I remember, as does my wife. She also spent 3.5 years in a concentration camp. She remembers, and thousands of survivors that gathered last year in Washington, D.C. at the convention, they all remember. We must remember, because remembering is a moral obligation. We must remember how to recognize the eerie symptoms of evil. Yet the world tries to forget. The request to bomb the concentration camp was denied on the grounds that this was a war for democracy, for mankind. Jews could not expect special privileges. When the war was won for democracy, the Jews would also be saved. But alas, the Jews in Europe were gone. The Allied forces claimed they could not bomb the tracks to Auschwitz because of military difficulties. The fact is that the synthetic rubber factory near Auschwitz, the IG Farben factory, I was working for 5.5 months in the same factory, was bombed repeatedly in 1944. Nevertheless, by 16,000 Jews, men, women, and children a day were being stuffed into the gas chambers. The same Air Force could not fly a few extra miles to bomb the ovens. The story of the Holocaust must be told, not to create division, but on the contrary, to foster reconciliation and cooperation, not just to recall the fears of the past, but also to fortify ethical standards in the present. It is difficult to conceive of a fate worse than being sent to a concentration camp. But perhaps there is one thing worse: to survive the camps and live to see a day in which some bigots, neo-Nazis, claim the Holocaust never happened. Yes, anti-Semitism, prejudice exists in actual tribes. Bigots are working to blur the significance of the Holocaust, even deny its existence. They wish to revise history, to claim that the genocide never took place. It is that surprising that in Europe, in the United States, Canada, a new breed of propagandists posing as historians have desecrated the memories of Hitler's victims by offering atrocious propositions that the Holocaust never occurred. David Irving of the Institute for Historical Review, in a gathering of supposedly objective scholars in Anaheim, California, from September 3rd to the 5th in 1983, stated the chemical Zyklon B was beneficial to the Jews because it was used as a disinfectant. Hitler was probably the best friend the Jews have within the Third Reich. Professor Arthur Butts of Northern University, French writer Paul Ressinger, Austin Abe, and many others, neo-fascists, around the world have downplayed the magnitude of the evil and have tried desperately to revive the sordid history of the crimes that decimated the world Jewish population by 1/3. I can personally attest to the fact that all this propaganda reduces to blatant lies. Constantly for 5.5 years, I saw before my eyes the most gruesome scenes of bestial savagery imaginable. The sadistic barbarism will haunt me forever. When I hear such preposterous claims, whitewashing the Nazi brutality, I tremble knowing these lies are beginning to be believed. The second reason why so many people do not want to hear about the Holocaust is that they are not entirely innocent. Many of those who staffed and operated the machinery of genocide were not black-booted soldiers or monsters like Eichmann, Hess, Goering and Dr. Mengele, the angel of death. All of these not so demonic people have blood on their hands. There were thousands and thousands of others who helped day by day, whose cooperation made the Holocaust a reality. People who had mouths but did not speak, ears but did not hear, and eyes but did not see. This was the world's largest, world's silent majority. Each of us, Jews or Gentile, share in a common humanity. As such, we must all together preserve and confront the memory of the Holocaust. The Holocaust must not be forgotten, not just for the sake of the Jews, but for the sake of all humanities. If civilization is to survive, mankind must learn to recognize evil when it first appears and halt it before it spreads like the Nazi epidemic, contaminating one people and destroying another. We must speak up and teach in our synagogues, churches, schools and universities, and insist that the world not forget or deny what was done. I say to all Jews and Gentiles alike, let the recollection of the Holocaust ignite in our soul respect, love, and understanding for every other human being, regardless of race, color, or nationality. I am one of the fortunate ones. I survived Hitler's final solution. At age 14, I was denied my youth, and I was called a Muslim, a starving Jew. 85% of who began the march with me never finished. I am one of the fortunate ones. Yes, I keep reminding myself it was a miracle from God. I am alive. The number of my arm won't let me forget my past. I can no longer enjoy the luxury of silence. Whenever I have the opportunity, I must tell. Many of them who went to see my tattoo, the symbol of Nazi dehumanization, they are generally filled with disbelief. I have a moral obligation to tell, to remind, and to never be silent. The memory and meaning of the atrocities must not be allowed to die. Most Americans do not believe that genocide could happen here. With our long tradition of freedom and democracy, with this said I must disagree. I believe the possibility of genocide exists in all populations. The potential is rooted in human nature. To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to keep silent and a time to speak. For there are men and women for whom the Holocaust is still a traumatic, vital memory. The time to speak is now. The purpose must be to warn the whole world civilization is at stake. We must all work against prejudice, intolerance, and bigotry. We survivors are complicated people, even difficult, annoying, inscrutable, never satisfied, and in turn we very thankful. We read, we laugh, we drink or wine, we enjoy music and literature, and yet there is always this strange feeling that accompanies us, the feeling of some final, irreplaceable loss. It is a feeling hard, very difficult to explain. Speaking about the Holocaust is not easy task, neither for a survivor nor for anyone else. How can anyone describe that nearly the indescribable? Yet it is something we must struggle to do. The story of the final solution, of the fate of the Jewish people in Europe, and the fate of millions of others must be told. The truth must be appreciated. And there is no more important place to speak than in the schools, where the next generation waits to hear of its heritage. What one people did to another must be understood as merely a recapitulation of World War II. The Holocaust entails a level of atrocity which transcends to the horrors of ordinary wars. Its tragedy involves more than simple physical killings. Perhaps we can sense its depth by exploring the impetus to kill, which developed among the most educated and civilized of German people. The Nazis used the most modern techniques of genocide conceived until that time. German corporations profited through industries of death. Pharmaceutical firms tested drugs on camp inmates. Other companies built ovens and supplied gas for a complete extermination. One firm, Tough and Son, supplied Auschwitz concentration camp with 46 ovens, 46 crematoriums, one company in Germany. They reduced human beings to consumable raw materials. Everything was recycled into the Nazi war economy. Goat teeth for the treasure, hair for the mattresses, ashes for fertilizer, and the skin for the lampshades by Ilse Koch. When I was in Buchenwald, and I was working in one of the particular barracks where the wife of the concentration camp's commander, she had a hobby in collecting tattoos, and she had a display of hundreds of tattoos, jeans, cut like in a butchery. Was the shame unbelievable to believe. I worked in a forced labor camp, number 167, an outside commando, 2 miles from Auschwitz. There, the firm IG Farben developed a variety of deadly chemicals in experiment with various poison gases, such as Zyklon B, which could kill 2,000 people in less than 30 minutes at a cost of a half a penny per person. Things were happening to me so quickly, I was stoned, shocked, and frightened. Wherever I went, I was transported from one camp to another. I felt completely hopeless, forsaken by God, forgotten by the civilized world, by mankind. I had to find a sense of value for my life in order to survive from 1 hour to an hour, from day to day. You must remember, I was the same age as most of you when I began this unpredictable journey. My story, to the extent to which it represents the odyssey of millions of others, most of whom did not live to complete their pilgrimage, may be among the most important stories ever told. My travelogue is a horrifying tale. I was shipped by cattle cars across Poland, Czechoslovakia, Germany, from Zagórów ghetto to Dachau and Birkenau, Auschwitz and Buna, to Buchenwald and Bergen-Belsen. I am always haunted with memories, the smells, the sounds, the chaos, the faces, and the fears. It is my duty to remind the world wherever I go, at all times. I am obligated to tell the truth, both for its own sake and to prevent another such torment from becoming a reality. For a long time I tried to keep my past a frozen, distant, dead memory. Slowly I started feeling it again. I knew I no longer could keep it hidden. Finally, after a long time, I was able to record and transcribe my traumas. It is now being written into the book, My True Story. I wish my suffering could protect you from similar torment. But alas, I fear all I can offer you is wisdom, knowledge and understanding. You have the privilege of education. For the moment, you have freedom, security, and prosperity. But regrettable, I must suggest that to hold these gifts, you must recognize how tenuous they are. Education that merely offers technical training or vocational preparation will not offer you depth, sensitivity into human need, or awareness of the world beyond your immediate experiences. Degrees alone do not certify wisdom. The well-trained but narrowly educated may lack compassion of the insight to use their knowledge to create a better world. The Nazis included among their ranks some of the most renowned scholars in human history. Many party members would externally appear cultured and refined. The German schools were ranked among the finest in the world. Goebbels and Hess among the highest ranking members of Hitler's staff. were university graduates. To my thinking, there is something seriously deficient in our education, which does not lead to our recognizing our common humanity. Education must not be merely the accumulation of facts, but rather the development of an insight which allows us to appreciate what the wisdom of the ages really means now, to help us to build a more compassionable world. I explore to take your opportunity to study as a time to consider your place with history, to develop a strategy to ensure the world will be in a better place for you having been here. The young must explore questions of the nature of humanity, of our responsibility to our environment, of the psychology of violence and mass control, consequences of the loss of freedom. When we speak and raise our voices, it is to warn the world of what could happen. I must say, and fear that the Holocaust could happen again. Knowledge and technology to destroy all human existence. Imagine for a moment what would happen if the Nazis and Hitler had computers, modern computers, or atomic bombs. German technology and science was at the forefront of the destruction process. I'm very thankful to God I am alive today and able to recount the Holocaust and tell it to you, to my children and my children's children. And in the name of the survivors, I ask you not to permit others to betray us in our moral mission of memorializing the Holocaust. I hope to God that the Holocaust never happened. I thank you all for letting me speak here today. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Yeah, I can. How long is to ask questions? Okay.
Were you separated from your family while you were at the concentration camps?
I was separated from my family?
Yeah, were you?
Yes, I was separated. In 1939, I was separated from my family. They took us to the first ghetto, to Zagurów, about 45 kilometers from my own city. Yes, I was separated, yeah. And when I came to Zagurów, we was living in the ghetto for 2.5 months. Finally, I was working in 2 months in the ghetto, building a railroad and the highway for 45 kilometers from the ghetto to the woods, to the Polish villages, to the woods. And we never knew what will happen afterwards to the railroad, to the people in the ghetto. 2 months later, the German Gestapo came and occupied every house around the ghetto. They were asking for 200 boys to take out from the ghetto. The ghetto was concentrated 22 different cities from one state. There were almost 155 100,000 people gathered in the same place. Unbelievable, under unbelievable conditions. The Gestapo took out 200 boys, and when I was in the house, I was not aware of it. Assessment came in with a shepherd dog and knocked at the door, and he was taking me out. My parents were not there, my sister was not there, my family wasn't there. My mother was in the kitchen, and she saw me taking me away to the trucks. She was chasing me. I was crying. I couldn't understand in a moment what's happening to me. I couldn't understand what's happening to my mom. She was completely exhausted. She was crying. She was chasing me for 300-400 yards, and finally the German opened machine guns and killed her on the road. She was laying on the highway. This was my unbelievable tragedy, the first moment that I was taken to the camps. And from then on, I never saw my parents. My parents were taken away 2 months later by the Germans in the closed Raven trucks. They were all sealed and gassed, and the whole completely ghetto of 150,000 disappeared. And since then, I never saw my family. Some other question? Some other question? Yes, darling.
How did you survive?
How I survived? It's a very big question. It's a miracle from God I survived. Yeah, it's very difficult to explain. We had to fight day by day, moment by moment. We had to use psychology. We was lucky in some places. I could speak German, and this helped me out. I was living with a faith. And it's unbelievable to believe thousands and thousands of tales what happened in the 5.5 years of concentration camp. Oh. I was liberated in Buchenwald by the Allied forces in 1945. Yes. Some other question?
Way back there, Chris.
Yes.
How did you get out?
How did you get out?
Oh, I told you before, I was liberated by the Americans, and they came in, and I was laying on the bunks. I was very ill. I was 78 pounds, and the Americans came in, and they transferred me to a hospital. Yeah. Yes, Dan.
What did you do when you got out of the hospital? Did you go back to Poland, or did you come to America?
Oh, when I get out from the hospital in Buchenwald, they took me to another hospital in Bergen-Belsen. And I was recuperating almost a whole year until I found myself ready to go out in a free society. I was very, very ill. Yes, Diane.
Have you ever seen any other people around in the United States or anywhere else that were in concentration camps with you?
I saw many survivors last year out in Washington, D.C., but very few survivors I knew that they survived with me in the camp. I just met one friend of mine that he was in a concentration camp with me. Many other questions. Yes.
How old were you when the Holocaust started?
When the war started, I was 14 years old. Don't be ashamed. Ask questions. You have the opportunity now. Okay, then.
If you had the chance, would you ever go back?
If I have a chance to
If you
go,
had a chance, would you go
where?
to Germany?
I would not want to go back nowhere. I made my living here, and I came to the United States, in which I'm very proud to be a citizen of this country, and I do not believe that you will find in the whole world another better land to live, a free country.
The Germans make a distinction between a concentration camp and a POW camp, and there was the treatment of the people in both those places.
Yes, they made the differences, yeah. They had a better treatment. They had more, they gave them more food and more privileges. We had no privileges, absolutely not. We was completely separated from them. Yes.
Were you often tricked by Germans to do things?
Yes, I was. I was tricked many, many times. The Germans never told you what they tried to do with you. And every time they prepared something, they tricked us out. They took us to different places where we was working hard slave labor camp, and they always told us something different, and they took us to another place. There was very gruesome scenes to see.
After the war, did the Americans come in and take care of all the people, or what did they do?
When I was liberated in Buchenwald, I was not fortunate to go out and be strong enough to witnessing all the scenes. But I know that the American GIs came in, the first people who liberated Germany. And even last week we were celebrated the D-Day. And thank God to the American forces and the English forces, they liberated the camp. They came into the camps and they witnesses. Thousands and thousands of people were lying dead bodies around in the camp. The German, before even they left, they killed people for no reason. People who survived 5.5 years, they were exhausted, skeletons. And by the end, the last moment, they still took advantage to exterminate them. Yes?
Did you ever see Hitler?
No, I never saw Hitler, but I saw Dr. Mengele, I saw Dr. Eichmann, and many other Hitlers.
Were there ever any soldiers that weren't as uncaring as some of them?
You mean different lenient to the
More friendlier?
more friendlier? Oh, unfortunately, you see, the German guards, the SS, the Gestapo, the Hitlerjugend, the Einsatzkommanders, they had one thing in common: to get rid of the Jews. And when they were finished with the Jews, they finished other nationalities. And if they will find out for the high command for some leniency or giving special privileges, they will automatically get punished. Yes, darling.
Were there many attempts like to run away?
There were many attempts to escape or get away, but unfortunately, people who tried to escape or they walked into the barbed electric wires, they never had a chance. They were killed instantly. Oh, okay, there's other.
How many women survived all this?
What did he say?
Women survived.
How many women survived? There were quite a few thousands, by maybe about 10 or 15,000 survived from the camps.
Is there any other member of the family that survived?
No, I lost my whole family, all 95 people. I'm the only one who survived. Yes.
How did you start over in the United States if you had no family or anything?
How I started? Well, you see, after the war, when I was liberated, I was living in Germany, in Hanover, and I went to school. I educated myself. I was educated in Germany. I went to the conservatory in Germany, in Hanover. I took other assignments, and I came to the United States already mostly prepared. Yeah, but I couldn't speak English when I came here. But when I came here Friday, and I went to work Monday, so I wasn't wasting my time. Yes, please.
After all the times they lied to you, how come you kept believing them and going with them? Not paying attention?
I was just saying.
After being lied to so many times, why did you have faith in what the Germans were telling you?
Oh, we never had faith in the Germans, never. They always, all the time when they tell us different stories, we knew they are trying to get rid of us. We never believed them, never. I was working in Auschwitz, maybe 15 different assignments. And every assignment I had, they all promised you different things, and everything was entirely different. Yes, Dad?
Is it true that they would tell people that they were going to take showers and lead them into this chamber? They look like showers, but
Yes. You see, when the transports from all over Europe came in to Auschwitz, and sometimes it all depends, mostly the transports came at night to take away the attention so people couldn't see. The music was playing 24 hours a day, a tremendous chaos, and Eichmann was separating the people, many guards, and we never knew what's really happening to us. It was separating. People were standing in the line for hours and hours. They took off their clothes, completely nude. They degraded the human being in the minute we came into Auschwitz. They shaved everyone, and they took us into the places where they had the disinfectant rooms. And from there, they separated us. Either you went to work, you went to the barracks, or you went straight to the gas chamber. And millions of people perished this way. They don't have no chance for anything. Yes, Dad.
Was your wife liberated at the same time you were?
My wife was liberated in, I think, 2 weeks later by the English soldiers in Bergen-Belsen, yes.
So where did you meet up with her?
I met in the same concentration camp in Bergen-Belsen. I met my wife, and in 1946 I was married. Yeah.
Did you make plans like previously that you would go back and find her?
No, you mean back to where? To Poland?
To concentration
No.
camp with the first time?
How were you and your wife reunited?
Yes.
Oh, you mean you?
After liberation, how did you get together?
Oh, I wasn't married, you know. I met my wife in 1945 in the camp after the liberation.
After.
Yeah. But I must tell you a very beautiful story in which some places, some people, I gave this story to a magazine not long ago, and it's a very true, beautiful story. Sometimes we speak about dead bodies and atrocities and killings, but this is a very true story. I must tell you this story. I was in Buna concentration camp in 1943, and I was working with two people that had bunks, three bunks, one on top of the other one. And there was a gentleman underneath the first bunk, a very intelligent man, very religious. I learned from him a lot when I was with him for 4 or 5 months. And the second bunk, there was a young man, 30 years old. This was his son. And I was laying on the top. And we had a tremendous relationship with these three people. He was one of the finest human beings I ever saw. We was praying together. He had a praying book. We knew all the time the Jewish holidays. We was striving, we was fighting. And for a period of time, for 4.5 months, I was completely so close to him, I thought that he was really my father. Very fine gentleman. Unfortunately, they took away his son to another concentration camp, and he went to the gas chambers. It was a tremendous loss. But after the liberation in 1945, I was married for a year and I was living in Hanover, Germany. My wife received a letter from Israel, And her two sisters survived also the concentration camp when they settled down after the war in Israel. And I received one day, the mailman came, a special delivery, my wife wasn't home, and I opened an envelope, and in the letter there was a photo. And I looked at this picture so many times, and I couldn't believe. I say, is this something, a miracle? Or is it something from heaven? I look at this picture and I saw the same man that I was laying in Buna with him in the concentration camp. And this was my wife's father. It's so strange. I couldn't believe it. It's really happened. Yes?
Was there any way they decided like who was going to go to the gas chambers or who was going to work? Or...
Yes, they separate. When the people came in to Auschwitz or Birkenau or any other places, there were guards. They were separating you right and left and right, and they were designated people to work, and many people were straight to the gas chambers. In fact, I remember one particularly July 1943, a transport came of 10,000 children like you, between the ages of 8 to 10 and 12, 13 years old. And it was a beautiful day. I was working particularly in the same with a Dr. Menner, a French doctor. I was working in a laboratory. And this particular day, 10,000 children arrived, and the Germans treat them so beautifully. They gave him chocolate, they gave him rations, they were happy, but they were completely confused. They were gathered from around Europe, 10,000 children. The next day in the morning, they lined up in the roll calls, and unfortunately, they gave them injections. And they all lost their lives in one day. There are thousands and thousands of tales, of scenes that I can tell. It's impossible to write it down, impossible. Yes, please.
Did you ever find out exactly what happened to your family?
Yes, I told you before, my family was killed in the trucks, in the Raven trucks, sealed boxcars, and they were gassed on the way to the woods of Kazimierz. Yeah. Any other? Yes?
Did they make everyone witness all the killings?
What did she say?
Did they make people witness the killing?
Oh yeah, sure. We was being in the camps. They had thousands of methods to kill the people, by gassing, beatings, hanging. You see, some places where the inmates sometimes come into the camp and they try to punish them for no reason. If they found a piece of bread or they tried to organize in the fields and they cut them, there was one particular camp in Rombinek. They were put on the gallows, and the whole camp has to watch the punishment. And this is what they try to do. Any other things?
Over there?
Is someone?
Oh, over there.
Oh yeah, okay then.
After the war, did the people in the concentration camp stay close? Did they all go their separate ways?
After the war, people are, I tell you, it was not easy to come out from so many camps for 5.5 years and to try to go in to a free society, to the world, to get accustomed with people. Everything was strange to us. We had to learn from the beginning like a small baby. And people try to go back to Poland and Germany, all over to find relatives. And people were spreading out all over the world. People went to Australia, Sweden, Israel, and I came to the United States. Yes. Some more questions, please. No.
Any other questions?
Come on, ask me. He wants to know what?
How people reacted to you as a survivor when you first arrived in the United States.
Oh, that's a good. He asked me a question: how people reacted
To you.
to me when I come to the United States. I tell you, I'm writing a book, and in my book I'm writing all my memoirs, the way when I came here, the experiences, how people were treating me. It was very strange to come to your country. I never knew the language. It was very strange to come to try to make a new life for yourself, and was very, very difficult, was very hard. But being 5.5 years in the camp and survived, and God helped me, and I thought myself, I can't give it up anymore. I have to go forward and make a living for myself. And it was very difficult. People were very strange. Many people, I must say the truth, they do not want to hear my complaints. I used to come and tell them what happened to us. But in the beginning of 1950s, people were completely reluctant to speak about it. When they saw a survivor, they stay away from it. They were afraid, many of them were afraid, maybe the survivor will ask you for something, for a donation or for something to help out. The communication between the survivors and the world was closed, was completely closed. They could not understand the survivors. We could not understand these people. Why the people do not understand us? When the whole world was watching, the whole world knew about it, and nobody did nothing. So I feel there was a part that people were guilty. They were trying to stay away from speaking about the Holocaust. Yes, Dan.
Besides gas chambers, what other ways?
Beside the gas chambers, the Germans had hundreds and hundreds of different methods to kill the people here. People were starving by beatings, hanging, gassing, exhaustions. Sometimes we was working in one particular camp in Lagisha, in Poland, and I was witnessing there was a ladies' camp, women. They were punishing every morning, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. They took out all the women, completely nude, and they were exercising with them for hours and hours until they were completely exhausted. This was unbelievable cruelties what the Germans did to them. They used all kinds of cruelties. Any other questions? Okay.
Sarah, after you guys were liberated and everything, there's still 100 people who are still pretty much alive, and what happened with that?
What did she say?
Still the soldiers. The soldiers were, even the other people, not obviously all the Nazis, there was still some of them left after the war.
What did she say?
She says, after the war,
Yes.
Were you in any other danger from any other people besides the Nazis had pretty much capitulated, so they
Yeah.
were all being controlled by the Allies.
Or I was in danger from any other people after
Yeah.
the war? I don't think so, no. Everybody was trying to help us as much they could, yeah. No, I was...
If you met up with a Nazi soldier, but by any chance, what would you do?
If I meet him?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you met one, what would you do?
You mean after the war?
Now.
Oh, now. I tell you, right now, if I will meet, I don't believe it, I will recognize him. But if I will meet him today, if I knew that he committed a crime, I would definitely would tell him, take him to Los Angeles, to the Wiesenthal Center, where they're searching for Nazi, and they should be punished, yeah. But see, today, after 40 years, after so many years, you really can hold responsible the young German generation for the crime what their fathers or grandfathers did. So today, I met many Germans, but I never met the German who actually been in the camps. I was witnessing the Nuremberg trials after the war, in which I saw many of them in Israel, but I never met guards. Like, for example, when I was with him, I never met him, no.
Or perhaps we have time for one more question.
Okay.
Oh, I guess everybody had...
Who's going to be the lucky guy?
It's going to be the old maid, okay.
Okay.
When you do meet Germans, do you experience prejudice towards them, or do you?
When you meet Germans,
Yeah.
do you feel prejudice towards them?
Oh, I tell you, when I feel Germans today, there's no such thing that I can say I go around with hate or I would like to make revenge. I would just tell them and try to educate them in the same way that I'm talking to you, so they will remember the atrocities and the genocide, what happened in that time. Okay? Thank you very much.